Hello, it's Andrew Horsfield here. Thanks for downloading and listening to this webcast. Over the next 20 to 25 minutes, I'd like to talk to you about peak performance and in particular, how you can start to amplify your impact as a leader, whether that's in your own life, whether that's in your career, or whether that's perhaps managing a team of people to get some stuff done. And we've got quite a lot to cover. So I'd like to jump straight in. And to start the context of our conversation for this webcast, I want to take you back to 2019 and mid-air, Dr. Mike Warshawski experiences a call that no doctor wants to hear. 2 hours into a long-haul flight from LA to Tel Aviv, over the intercom, Dr. Mike hears the captain saying that if there's a doctor on the plane, can you please let yourself known to the cabin crew by pressing your call button, which of course, having taken the oath, he did. And what Dr. Mike found when he was taken to the patient was someone who had been feeling unwell and had been gradually getting worse during the flight. And with one look at the patient, Dr. Mike knew that he was going into anaphylactic shock. And that wasn't at the time his primary concern, because when asking the cabin crew for the first aid kit, he discovered that it didn't have an EpiPen, the relatively inexpensive device that's commonly used to open up the airways and treat people who are going through anaphylactic shock. Fortunately, the crew did have an advanced life support kit, things like defibrillators and really high intense medicine that contained some epinephrine. And with some troubleshooting and adjusting the dosage and working out how to administer the medicine effectively, Dr. Mike was able to stabilize the man's condition, monitor his vital signs for the remainder of the flight, and essentially save his life. And for me, I love working with leaders who are delivering results in a demanding context. And for Dr. Mike, you'd have to categorize that experience on board that flight in 2019 as a demanding context. It was horrible timing. He was well over the Atlantic Ocean, miles from anywhere, on a long haul flight. He wasn't equipped with the normal things he would have in a hospital, but a cramped galley large enough essentially for 4 cabin crew, let alone the person he was treating and Dr. Mike himself. So the conditions were pretty trying. He didn't have the right resources, none of the basic resources that he would usually have at his disposal in a hospital working or treating patients. And of course, you'd say it's high pressure. Life or death is one of those high pressure moments that doctors have to face. So that's pretty self-explanatory. And the last one, of course, is he had a well-intentioned crew, but unqualified to help in that situation, and therefore a real lack of support for him to get the work done that he needed to get done in having the support around him. And when you look at what makes these conditions so demanding, it's not that dissimilar to the conditions or contexts that we all have to manage as we go about our work. And so whether you're a single parent who's trying to get their kids out the door on time, fully dressed without Weet-Bix on their cheeks, or you're the senior executive trying to lead a transformational change, you have to deal with poor timing, unhelpful conditions, high pressure moments, or even manage people and projects without the support that you'd ideally desire. And so once upon a time, delivering results in these demanding contexts was often left to the elite, the most senior leaders in our organizations, or the brightest stars on the sporting field. But today, that just isn't the case. Today, we are all in that elite category. We are all doing work in demanding contexts. And while that work may not involve saving someone's life at 30,000 feet, it is valuable and meaningful work because it matters to us and it motivates us. But the problem with the modern day demands that come with work is they also come with a constant feeling of stress, pressure, and that's creating a huge amount of collateral damage. We feel uncertain about the future, so we're hesitant to commit to a course of action for ourselves, our career, even our relationships and our health and our life. We're consistently investing long hours at work without feeling like we're making any real impact. And the day-to-day demands are just making us feel fatigued, impacting our mental and emotional health. And this just isn't unsettling, it's unhealthy for us. And if you don't feel like you're drowning, perhaps you might just feel like you're plateauing in your leadership and your performance. And in the work that I do in advancing individuals, teams, and organizational cultures, there are three common types of people I see in trying to navigate this struggle of delivering results in demanding context. The first are the ones who are just cooked. Some of us are just swimming in a sea of difficulty and disappointment, believing that things will never get better. They're often hopeful and they're ready to make a change, but lack direction and are full of doubt, defaulting pretty much to safety and the status quo, and they're feeling stuck. The second group are capable people, and this is where a bunch of people that I work with would fit into. So they're living good, happy lives. They're making some progress at work, but consistency is the problem. They're capable and experiencing some moments of real performance, but then they worry about inconsistency impacting their results and their reputation within the workplace. And finally, there's a small percentage of people who just feel like they're crushing it. They keep a calm demeanor at home and at work. They're consistently making a positive impact regardless of what gets thrown their way. And they are the leaders who are advancing quickly because they improve almost every team, culture, or customer that they are coming into contact with. And their success comes down to making one small shift in their thinking. And I think it's a key mental shift from thinking about achievement to focusing on alignment, specifically the alignment of the three critical elements that drive performance. The performance, the result we're trying to achieve; potential, the capability we have at our disposal to succeed; and also pressure, the obstacles that we have to overcome to reach the performance that we're trying to realize. And so when you look at this performance model, you can think of peak performance being how well your potential, yours or your team's, performs under pressure is what's going to drive your level of performance. And maintaining alignment between each of these elements is what makes success so hard to achieve. We might achieve alignment on all of them some of the time, some of them all of the time, but rarely do we do all of them all of the time. And whenever you experience a lack of alignment, you're also going to experience a lack of achievement. And let me give you a couple of examples of those. If the performance to be achieved lacks clarity or is not compelling for people, we lack the motivation to do the meaningful work or make a contribution. And so we fail in our engagement or to engage in the work that matters. If we don't define the behaviors that help us activate and empower talent, we fail to empower the potential that we need to perform. And this often happens where we see leaders or a few people in the team carrying the majority of the work for others. And if we ignore the pressure that exists that distract our attention and derail our effort, we get tired, our willpower turns into won't power, and we fail to execute in the moments that matter. And when we experience any kind of misalignment, we make the mistake of often working on these issues in isolation when in reality, they need synchronization. And this is the mental shift that leaders who are crushing it have made. They think less about achievement and more about keeping these three elements into alignment. And so if you watch a great chef cook a meal, you'll see them constantly tasting their dish as they go because they want to ensure that the aroma, the taste, the texture, temperature, even the flavors match the complexity of the dish that they're trying to create. And I think modern day leadership is the same. To perform in a complex, challenging, and continually changing environment, we must also constantly assess our work to ensure that each of those elements are aligned for the achievement to occur. So we need to emulate those chefs and be worried about how the alignment is taking place. And when you make that mental shift as a leader from focusing on achievement to alignment, you start to develop a beautiful suite of skills that enable you to deliver results in a demanding context. Skills that not only advance people and performance, but start to influence those other attributes that we know help to retain top talent, build an effective team, and create a culture that people want to join. So the question that I'd like you to think about, that you may already be asking, is where are you? Where do you sit on this performance model? And perhaps for those of you leading a team, where would you plot out the members of the team in terms of where they're working? Are people working their own position or serving the team or organisational purpose? And in those moments that define performance, are people passive or are they passionate and putting their skills to work? Another way of thinking about the two axes on this performance model is the vertical axis is really asking you what really matters to you. And the horizontal axis is asking, do you really care? And while we predominantly operate within established boundaries of our personality, preferences, and certain patterns of behavior, our performance profile is continually changing during the day. Just like a compass rotates by degrees as we move, our performance profile, or the quadrant we're operating in, also changes as we move through the day, engaging different people, projects, and conversations. And the critical skill to effective leadership is discernment, being savvy enough to see where you are and skilled enough to make a shift to a more productive approach when your aspirations for achievement are being challenged in some way. And that's the work that I love to do. I'm a human performance consultant who works with leaders to address the challenges of human performance. Applying insights from more than 25 years of experience, I love to deliver compelling events and programs and workshops that help ambitious people get hard things done. Over the past 13 or so years, my consulting services have helped ignite organisational change, transform disengaged teams, fast-track future leaders, and assist elite sporting teams secure premiership success. So if you have a challenge that you think we could work on together, please get in touch. I'd love to start a conversation. But if you're a bit more curious and a bit more reserved and want to receive some useful resources like this webcast on a regular basis, webcasts or resources that will move your mental furniture about how to advance people and performance, you can sign up to my free newsletter where I push out the informational resources on a pretty regular basis, or just stay in touch via the usual social channels, and you can find me just by searching for my name. I hope you choose to stay in touch or get in touch, and thanks for listening.